The Viltrox 75mm F1.2 Pro lens is not only the best Viltrox lens by an absolute mile, with its only near competitor being the 85 F1.2, but it might actually be the best Fujifilm lens, period. And especially if you can get it for less than $600. I'll drop a link for Amazon down below. Now let's take, for example, this. We're backlit, dappled sunlight, headlights are in the direction of the lens. I am shooting at f1.2 wide open. Let's punch in. I've focused right here on the bow tie. It's nice and crisp, no chromatic aberrations. Everything that should be in focus is in focus and sharp at f1.2. Then it falls off. Look at the background, look back there. Those trees in real life are not swirly, but in that lens, oh my God, this is the closest thing you can get to an 85 f1.2 L Canon lens on the Fujifilm system. It's spectacular, it's beautiful, it's cost effective. I mean, oh my God, the only other thing I can do is show you guys some photo examples. If you guys don't know, my specialty, my bread and butter, what I do the most and what I do the best is automotive work. And it always turns out to be an absolute nightmare scenario for camera systems and lenses. Reflective surfaces, glass, shiny metallic paint on hard angled surfaces, some smooth rounded surfaces, LED headlights and fog lights pointing directly into the lens, shooting in broad no cloud daylight, shooting backlit. I mean, the dappled sunlight punching through the trees, making an incredibly high contrast scenario. It is just the most that you could possibly put on a lens as far as asking it to perform well, especially at wide open, especially at f1.2. But let's go through these and let me show you all how magical this lens is. So let's back up. This is my first ever model shoot right here. I'm really good at cars, models I need some work on. It's not something I'm going to do a whole lot of, but I'll need to be proficient with it. So anyway, this is a 23 Sportage, Kia Sportage, and these boomerangs are notorious for green and purple chromatic aberration color fringing. We don't have any here. And we are shooting, as you can see on the right-hand side, I have my metadata pulled up. This is at f1.2, wide open. Now let's come up here. These are incandescent out of focus bulbs. You should expect some color fringing on out of focus hard lighting, hard contrast, because it's got a dark sky behind it, and you just don't have it here. I mean, you can't ask for anything more. So here, this is at f2.8, so I could deepen out my depth of field. But the main thing is our longitudinal chromatic aberration is almost completely absent. All the way down to f2, I'm getting the same longitudinal chromatic aberration results, and then it very slightly increases as you back down to f1.2, but still better than any of the other Viltroxes at f2, f2.8, f4 even. This thing is so far ahead of all the other lenses it competes with, especially this price range. So as you can see, this is the textured hood on a 2023 Ford Bronco Raptor. It is very textured, so you have all these different angles and lines for that light to catch, and all this high contrast angles and lines for the longitudinal chromatic aberration to appear, and you see very, very little of it. And I did not do any chromatic aberration adjustment to this image. Look at, I mean, how crazy hard this golden hour backlighting is, and you don't have any, I mean zero color fringing around our hard contrast lines and the light reflecting off of the paint. This, I am backlit on this image here. This is my second model shoot ever. This Bronco Raptor with McKenna here. This is my second model shoot I've ever done, but let's look foreground. Out of focus, nice and creamy. Buttery rolls into focus, nice and smooth. She's in focus, nose of the car. Those big old 37-inch KO2 tires are in focus. And then immediately, like by the time it gets to that back tire, you're already out of focus. By the time you get to this side mirror over here, you're out of focus. And now look, here's what I really want to show you. LED lights and daytime running lamps and our marker lamps up at the front of this, none of them have color fringing. This is the correct color of amber, and this is the correct pure white of that fog light in real life. So not only do we not have color fringing, but we don't have color changing from it stressing or pushing the coatings on the lens. And then look at the background here. The tree goes from out of focus and a little bit swirly in the corner to just absolutely melting away as that tree line progresses. The background is pretty much dissolved into what you would assume is a tree line, but you can't really make out any details, and it's just so wonderful. And that is at f1.4. This is at f1.2. Now the sun is behind me and is facing, it is front lighting the back of the vehicle and the model here. The main things I want to point out real quickly are all these LEDs are not color fringed, including the one that's out of focus, but more importantly, this is what I'm talking about, that L glass, that Canon L glass like swirl. So you're getting that vintage character and out of focus area with that swirly look, but it's not busy, and your bokeh is nice and clean. It looks so good, and you don't have any color fringing or aberrations on your bokeh. You don't have any on your out of focus lights. You don't have any on your in focus lights. She's nice and sharp. You still retain all this contrast and definition. You can see the texture of her shirt. You can see the flowers on her dress. I mean, you can see the stuff stuck inside between the siping on the KO2 tires. It is just a wonderful, wonderful lens that you're getting, and you can do that at f1.2 wide open. Now, this one is at f1.8. I wanted to make sure I got her entire face in focus and her hand, but by the time we get to her elbow or her shoulder, it's already starting to fall out of focus, but not completely out of focus. Her eye is absolutely tack sharp, so is the strands of her hair, and then by the time you get to the foreground, it almost looks like a mirror because it's just falling up. I mean, it's just melting away, and the background is completely obliterated. Now here is a nightmare scenario. This is summertime in Texas, so the sun is right above us, and even on our hard lines, glowing highlights. I mean, that you can't get any brighter until you get to the core of it, and you completely lost your highlights because at this point the sensor can no longer keep up with the amount of light coming in. My point is, right around them, you're still retaining the color blue with no fringing on that highlight, and this is at f1.2. Our detail is all here. The lights look good. And now we get back into the woods where you can see more of that background swirl. This is f1.2. This set in particular has a lot of swirl because of the distance we are from the trees. Again, we get some swirl. She's nice and sharp, color accuracy, no fringing, and you got that swirly vintage style background with a modern sharpness in your in-focus areas. And this one at f1.2, now the sun is starting to punch through from behind the trees, so you're getting these light pockets which create these bokeh balls behind us. Now look at that, is a most definite swirl. You can see it wrapping around the subject. This, to me, this kind of bokeh, this vintage swirly bokeh, to me is almost like a spotlight on your subject. It's pulling you into the middle of the image, and I framed her in the middle of the image. It's the picture is just asking you to look right at her because of the way this swirly bokeh is rendered out in Canon L glass style, but for like $560. It's crazy. Incredible color rendition. We're not getting any weird highlights around the bokeh balls, no cat's eyes, no onion rings. And this is the 2024 Acura Integra Type S. This is the pinnacle of a nightmare scenario for a camera and lens. Incredibly, a very metallic paint job, a very saturated blue color, LED headlights, LED running lamps, hard contrasting creases and lines on the car, and broad middle of the day daylight. And yet we're shooting at f1.2. We get a little bit of that vintage swirl back there. We get that kind of painterly look. Subject isolation is great. And man, oh man, no color fringing on the highlights. You do see here, we get that vertical lens flare. With this image, I'm okay with it. As a matter of fact, I like it on this image, and if I didn't like it, I could stop it down to 1.4 or 1.6 or 1.8 and get rid of it, but I want to shoot at f1.2. Otherwise, I would not have bought a f1.2 lens. All my hard lines, there's no purple fringing, there's no teal fringing. Everything I wanted in focus is in focus. The metal flake is visible in the paint. The color is accurate in the shadows, the highlights, the creases, super sharp where you want it, blown out background. accurate colors, no fringing, no aberrations, no weird bokeh balls. It's just so good. This one's at f1.8 because I needed some more depth of field, but as you can see, usually I'll see color fringing around my super bright bokeh balls right here. You don't have any, and the bokeh balls are nice and clean and round and no weird onion rings or donuts or anything like that. Background is just absolutely destroyed. The blue is accurate. Integra, I should have probably shot this at f2.8 to get the full Integra in focus, but I like that shallow depth of field. But the Integra, you can see it right there, the metal flake, and look right here, this is the big thing. The metal flake, the sharpness, the color accuracy, the lack of color fringing on this. It goes from out of focus to in focus. Big bright highlight right here off the corner of this headlight housing, or really that's body work going around the headlight housing, but it's right here up against the headlight housing. You got out of focus, in focus, metallic, high saturation blue, incredibly contrasty from darkest dark right here to the blasted out bright highlight. And it just does so, and it's not even in the center of the image. It's near the edge where you're going to expect the poorest results of a lens, and it still holds together. Just more of the same here, f1.2, incredible color accuracy. Highlights are wonderful, colors are controlled, creases, shadows, highlights, out of focus area, in focus area, everything is really just perfect. Last one here, a broadside shot. I wanted to include this because we have both this hard crease line, this body line that goes down the side in the form of a hard crease, which creates a drastic highlight and shadow scenario right here. And we also have these smooth sloping roof line that comes back, it's kind of like a fastback or a hatch, which this is a hatch. And then you also have these hips on the car that are sloping and rolling, and this flared out fender that slopes and rolls. So you have both hard and smooth contrast points, and everything is just so beautiful. This is at f1.2. It rolls in and out of shadows while maintaining color accuracy on both the high and the low light side. My flares, or my blown out portions where it catches the sun directly, it's not fringing around it. My bronze is accurate. The red in the shadow is accurate. And I mean, we're near this is the edge of the frame. And even at f1.2, this lens is incredible. I highly recommend it. Link is in the description down below. Thank you guys so much. You'll have a great day.